So how's it going, motherfuckers? I have a lot of people asking me to review Spider-Man Homecoming, and I didn't get to see the film until today. So now we're gonna be doing the review finally. I know people were asking. I kept responding saying, I didn't see it yet. I didn't see it yet. Managed to see the film. So I'm sure a lot of people are interested to hear what I have to say, especially after the big war that I was involved in here on YouTube involving the Batman versus Superman and the, Captain America Civil War movies. And we had quite a few disagreements. I mean, if you look at the comments section on those videos, you will see that there are quite a few disagreements to be had on those films. I expressed how much I didn't like the direction of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's something that's praised by a lot of fanboys. Marvel could do no wrong. This is the third Spider Man series that we're seeing. This is the second reboot for the movie. And, even one reboot is still one reboot too many. And, I still have that affectionate spot for Tobey Maguire and the Sam Raimi films. And so, right off the bat, we need to ask, what's the best Spider-Man film? After watching Spider-Man Homecoming, it's still Spider-Man 2. It's still my favorite. I still don't think that there's a better film that felt as satisfying and just felt like a really complete Spider-Man experience. Now, I had reviewed those movies a couple of years ago, nostalgic reviews of the Spider-Man movies, and I talked about how Tobey Maguire was very likable to me. He was very endearing in Spider-Man. He captured the more emotional, tortured inner soul of Peter Parker, but didn't quite get that sarcastic tone down that Spider-Man is known for. I mean, Spider-Man is a sarcastic motherfucker, and to not have that part of his personality is not really truly living up to the Spider-Man name. But for some reason, he got a pass because the movies were just so enjoyable, and the portrayal was, you know, uh, was just it really did it for me. I was happy with it, so I wasn't really going to do too much complaining. The criticism is still worthy. It still does apply, but I was still a big fan of the performance. So now we have Tom Holland. If right off the bat, I said right from the trailers, and I said right from Civil War, where Tom Holland made his debut as Spider-Man returned to Marvel for the first time since the Amazing Spider-Man 2, which you could watch my review when that movie came out. It Not that it was a terrible movie, but it definitely was a Spider-Man movie that I just was not feeling. I wasn't really connecting with Andrew Garfield. I just could not get into that movie, and just it wasn't presented in a very entertaining fashion. It didn't feel like that complete Spider-Man experience. And I even went so far to say, which probably upset a lot of people and disagreements probably abound, that Spider-Man 3 was superior to the entire Amazing Spider-Man series. And I actually still stand by that. And I still don't think Spider-Man 3 is a bad movie. And there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say, okay, that disqualifies my opinion right from the start. I think there's a lot of people who have not even seen Spider-Man 3. They talk about how bad it is, how, like, it's like something of legend of how bad it is. You need to go watch some bad movies and then go watch Spider-Man 3. And you will see that Spider-Man 3 not only contains good acting and a decent story, pretty much the only thing that went wrong with Spider-Man 3 was the fact that Venom was portrayed very poorly and they chose the wrong actor, and Venom shouldn't have been teaming up with Sandman. That was just one of the oddest. But anyway, let's talk more specifically about Homecoming. So, with Spider-Man's, first rebooted appearance being in Civil War, we're not going through the whole entire origin story again. Thank God for that. Thank God they just jump into it. and don't bother with that stuff. Everybody knows the story. I know. The thing is, like, after seeing it, played out again in the Amazing Spider-Man, nobody wants to see that origin story. Nobody wants to go back from the beginning. But strangely enough, this movie takes it back even further. And I don't really understand what people are talking about. Oh, the comics about how Tom Holland is so young. Because in the original comics, I still don't know what they show in Ultimate Spider-Man or what the current, Spider-Man series of comic books is showing. Is Peter Parker that young? It's just, I don't like that time frame being used. I rather see the 17-year-old Peter Parker, the type of teenager that we saw in the past two Spider-Man series. I mean, those are the perfect ages. This is just, he looks too much like a kid, too much like a young boy. And I take something away from the movie right from the offset. Now, I just have to say, it's a good movie, without a doubt. Before I start my criticisms, let me just say that this is a good movie. It is way better than both Amazing Spider-Man films. It blows them out of the water. That's like an epic understatement. Tom Holland does play his role very well. He does not so much capture the sarcastic side of Spider-Man. It's not really, like, when I think about it, it's not that he's really all that sarcastic and everything. And I think if actually maybe Andrew Garfield tried to go for the more sarcastic personality even more, he just couldn't connect with me. This is a more goofy, inexperienced Spider-Man that doesn't know what's really, going on in the world yet. Yet he tries to be a superhero the best he can, and this leads to a lot of humorous moments. The villain that's portrayed by Michael Keaton is somewhat of a show stealer. I knew he was going to play this role very well, and I was very happy with it. It definitely has to be something historic. It's probably the first time ever that I said that you had this groundbreaking thing where Ben Affleck played two separate superheroes in two separate comic book companies, DC and Marvel, playing Daredevil and Batman. But now you have another one. But instead of playing another superhero, he plays a villain. So not only is Michael Keaton Batman in the 1989 film, but he is also now the Vulture in a Marvel film. And I like the way how they did the Vulture. They kind of gave him the Green Goblin upgrade, where it's more of a mech suit, not feathers, and how he saw not like an old man, who's looking to suck the youth out of people. They don't go that route, and it's pretty good. They're just basically stealing technology and performing heists. They want to get ahead. And it's a simple plot, but it works. You see sporadic appearances from Tony Stark, who is giving Spider-Man a trial run. He's not ready to make him a full-fledged Avenger. There's some entertaining interactions between Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland in this. And Tom Holland, I can't stress enough, for his age, does a very good job in this film. And he's very entertaining when you look at it, like how naive and inexperienced he is, and that leads to a lot of the humor that the movie has to offer. Now, with all these, okay, then you also have Spider-Man's friend, who's this Asian kid, and he's entertaining. He provides a lot of funny moments, but I don't know what it was. It's just, I kind of think back to just how it was in the Sam Raimi films, where Spider-Man didn't really need any friends besides Harry Osborn. And just having this other kid that's inconsequential, and we know that he's probably not going to even be in the next movie, it just kind of felt like, well, he doesn't really need to be there. He's just like some comic relief sidekick character that is there to kind of just help Peter and just kind of, give him that childhood friend, that high school friend. And I don't know, I wasn't crazy about it. Even though he might have been funny in some scenes, I kind of look at it like, well, they could have handled that a little bit better. And this other character that they have, something Laura something, forget the name of the actress who portrays Liz, and she has got to be one of the most boring actresses I've seen. I mean, and the funny thing is that people gave Kirsten Dunst. This is a funny little anecdote I gotta give. Is that many people were saying how hot Kirsten Dunst was when Spider-Man first came out, the Sam Raimi from the Tobey Maguire one. And then when we saw Emma Stone in The Amazing Spider-Man, many people were saying, oh, Kirsten Dunst was ugly, she wasn't pretty enough, and she wasn't a good actress, and there was complaints abound. If you really want to see just how good Kirsten Dunst was in that movie, compare her to this actress that plays Liz. There's no personality, there's no on-screen presence. There's like it's so blah. And it's not a really big part of the movie, but spoilers, and you shouldn't be watching any. This movie's been out long enough. I'm even doing this review very late. But she ends up being the daughter of the Vulture, Michael Keaton's daughter, and even for that, even when that big reveal comes, it's like she's such a boring character. It's like it's a surprise. It's a nice little twist in there, but she just really bored the shit out of me. And also this other character who's coming about, Zendaya, who plays a very small role. She caused a big, huge, like uprising among fans that were very upset because we see at the end of the movie, she calls herself MJ. Her name is Michelle. She calls herself MJ, and why they went with that name is a bit perplexing because that's not MJ. After the fans really just burst into rage, even Marvel came out and said no, that's not MJ, that's not Mary Jane, that's Michelle Jones. Why they chose the acronym, the nickname MJ is a bit confusing to me. Why they even went that way when you know that you already have the iconic Mary Jane with the initials MJ. Why would you give it to another character? And there's been a lot of talk, and also here on YouTube, many of you guys saw on Facebook. We went to war with Blake and a bunch of other people here, Blake the Snowflake, and we were fighting about, Spider-Man Homecoming. I hadn't seen the movie, so I couldn't really comment on it. But Poston talked about, some SJW moments in the film, some social justice moments in the film, talked about some moments that really breeds a sense of liberalism into this film, and we see a couple of moments where this is abound, and most of this actually just comes out of the mouth of basically one character, and we see it also through the film. There's some multiculturalism. We see in one scene Liz is talking to an obvious gay classmate, a guy sounding like a girl, and I thought that was the first part in the movie, and I'm sitting there uh, like okay, they're just like that character just had to be gay for whatever reason, just to throw it in there, even if it was a couple of seconds. And I thought that was, just really interesting that when the Sam Raimi films came out, and even in the Andrew Garfield films, it wasn't really like something we had to worry about. But of course, this Disney property Zendaya, they have her in the film, and there's a scene in the movie where they're going to DC to do some type of triathlon thing, asking science questions, and she says, "I want to get to DC early so I could do a little bit of protesting." And the cuck teacher remarks, "Oh well, protesting is patriotic, so let's go." And I was just like, why is that line written into the film? For what reason? is that supposed to be funny? She wants to get there early to protest. It's like a little subliminal message. Now, this didn't ruin the film for me, of course. It's just very bothersome to the fact that I even have to mention it because it's just such a petty little fucking thing that they throw in there just to, just to grate on whoever sees it. Like, once again, you're just like doing it like and you're alienating the audience. Then she makes another crack in the movie where her and the same cuck teacher are standing in front of the Washington Monument. And he says, don't you want to check out the monument? She goes, oh, no, I'm not really interested. I'm not here to see something that was built by slaves. Then the teacher starts to remark, oh, well, I don't think it was built by. And then there's a black security guard standing next to the monument. He goes, like, not really. And I'm just like, again, like, who's gonna find that funny? And not only is it not true, but it's also a stupid line. Like, it's not even like I'll give them this. This movie was funny. There was a lot of moments that were very funny and like laugh out loud moments. Very like goofy, funny little moments. But you write jokes in there like that, and you're just really, you know, uh, you're really just grasping at straws, just trying to get out of, just trying to like stick it to certain people in the film. Like, I don't know, those jokes weren't necessary. There's a couple other things. There was also multiculturalism abound. Flash Thompson can't be a white guy. There's interracial marriages there. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but it's just the fact that they have to make a point. I remember when I did the whole Zendaya video, like, what was that, like a year ago when they at first announced the film? And I really expressed, like, just, the fact that they had to change the races. I remember one of the biggest, taboos among fans is when they did it in that, now we don't even talk about that Fantastic Four movie where they made Johnny Storm into a black guy. And even you had a lot of, black Marvel fans even coming out and saying, what was the point of that? Like, we want him to be white. It just was not, a lot of people were just calling me racist and saying that, oh, you're being racially insensitive. It's not that. It's just it gets like kind of annoying where it's not just like a natural thing like, oh, we're just casting this person because he's a good actor or because this makes sense in the plot and he played this role well. It just seems like now they just cast people because they just have to. They have to abide by some code. They have to meet a certain quota for a certain amount of actors. It has to be, this amount of this race and that amount of this race. We have to promote multiculturalism. And it's just tiresome. It really, really is. And you have all these different girls in here, and none of them are like the normal girls that we know from the Spider-Man universe. And anyway, I don't want to talk about that. The action scenes are really good. There is a scene that James Rolfe brought up that I will say that it did bring back a lot of fond memories from Spider-Man 2, the awesome train sequence, which was still probably one of the best scenes I've ever seen in the comic book movie. They do it with a ship, and that's also a really breathtaking scene. And just whenever the Vulture's on screen, like, he commands your attention, and Michael Keaton does such a great job with this. And it really is. It's a good film. It's just it has a lot of like weird things, especially coming from like the female cast. Like, I don't just there's just not a lot of strong female leads in here, and that wasn't really a problem. In fact, I even said as much as I didn't like Amazing Spider-Man 2, Emma Stone was one of the high points of the film. Kirsten Dunst really, kept it going. And, we really don't see nearly enough of Aunt May. If they had to have more women on screen, I would have preferred to see more of her than this boring Liz chick they have. That was probably one of the most. It's not like she's in the movie a lot, but she's there enough where it's just like, why did they choose her? Like, out of all actresses, why did they go for that particular actress? She's so boring. She brings nothing to the table. There's no chemistry there. it's just a very, very like awkward type of relationship. It's also, of course, they want to put together teenagers are awkward and it's not so smooth, so maybe it's more realistic than what we normally see in these high school comedy movies. What we've come to know, and like, but it's just a lot of like odd characters and a lot of odd interactions, and it just, I don't know, it just, some of it's a bit cringeworthy. It really is. For a good film, it's just a lot of this stuff. It's a lot of these casting choices. Like I said, they made a point to have this cast be diverse. And, we do have a lot of good actors here. We have Marissa Tomei. We have Michael Keaton. Shocker is in here. Scorpion's in here. If you watch after the credits, you'll see that he's being saved for a further date for probably the next movie, maybe. That's interesting because we haven't seen him yet in any of the movies. We see the Shocker, and they just don't do him justice. Shocker just feels so lazy. He has one, one like blaster on his arm, but it's not even like he shoots them like he does in the comic book cartoon. It's more like he does this punch, and it's like a wave, and it does it from such short range. It's hard to tell. It's not really like a beam. It's more just like a punch, and kind of just, I don't know what it is, if he's actually punching them or just kind of like doing this motion and it's just like blowing the person back. So that was disappointing. They don't give him any sort of costume or anything, or really go out of their way to make him look cool, which is a shame because Shocker is a cool character, and they just don't do him any justice, which once again is confusing because they just like, here's another opportunity to have a villain, and they kind of just throw him in there, just kind of shoehorn him in there. You don't really even feel like he needed to be there, but it's just like an extra nod to the comics, an extra nod to the fans. Like, okay, here you go. We're going to give you Shocker as well, not just the Vulture. Um, and to tell you the truth, it's like I could have done without him because in a way it's just like, okay, so here's Shocker and he's nothing special. And then the first guy who's playing Shocker dies in it, and then another guy replaces him. So it's like, all right, so I don't know. I could have done without him being in there. So overall, though, this was a pretty good movie. Like I said, I do have quite a few problems with it. This movie still doesn't seem to have that style I'm looking for. It's hard to explain what was so great about the Sam Raimi films. This film have charm. It certainly does, but not at the same level. I don't know. It's something when I go that makes me want to go back and watch those Sam Raimi films. Perhaps it's nostalgia that those were really the first Spider-Man movies, and we don't really count the shitty ones that were in the '80s. But these are the first really like acceptable, mainstream, good Spider-Man films. And there wasn't, when they came out, many people did not have any problems with the first two. Many fans were like very satisfied and they were excited. We only see criticism of it now because there's more to compare it to. But back then, there was, what were you going to compare Spider-Man to? The first X-Men film, Batman Forever? I mean, like, there wasn't really a lot of superhero movies at that time. There was Spider-Man that kind of gave birth to all these, the large influx of superhero movies. So, there's just something missing from these films where it just doesn't really quite click as well as those films did with me, and perhaps it's nostalgia. But I'll tell you, it really, the Amazing Spider-Man films did not click with me at all. This one sort of did, in a way, but I do view the Raimi films on a much higher plateau. And I know Cabin Morales will probably, hate me for saying this, but, I love Tobey Maguire and I love Sam Raimi. And I think, together as a team, they made those movies great, and they made some great casting choices. And see, you had some really good casting here. Jamie Foxx is a great actor, but he just did not fit into that Electro role at all. Michael Keaton, however, is a perfect fit, and he's one of the highlights for the film. Anyway, guys, that's my opinion on the film. I think that it's a good movie. It's lacking in certain areas. It doesn't really feel quite as good as the Raimi films to me, but that's perhaps my personal preference. It is my personal preference. Like I said, I rate these on based on my enjoyment of it, and I enjoyed it. These films, this one does feel a bit long. There are parts where really you kind of feel like the movie just kind of starts losing it a bit. Just very it's scarce moments. The movie kind of feels like it's starting to lose its way at points and getting a bit bogged down, especially like with Peter's Asian friend, where they're just going for comedic relief. And it doesn't really have that much to do with the story. They kind of like lose themselves at times. Maybe they're having a bit too much fun making this movie. But it did seem like it was a lot of fun making it. Anyway, guys, it's a fun, entertaining movie. I'm sure, a lot of people are already saying it's the best Spider-Man film. I disagree with that, but hey, I could see where people are coming from. If you didn't like Tobey Maguire, that's understandable, but you know, I could see why you would definitely like this movie then, because if you didn't care for him as an actor, that will greatly affect your enjoyment of it. So, but here you go, guys. There's your review. Flame me, do what you want. I'm sure there's some people that are going to be pissed by saying, "Oh, how could you not believe that this is not the best one?" Well, listen to the reasons and try to see where I'm coming from. Anyway, guys, until next time.